We are finally going to be doing a tier list of all the Druid subclasses. I've gone into depth about each and every one of these subclasses previously on the channel, so check out those videos if you want more context on why I ranked the subclass where I did. But today, this is the big one, the big overview, so let's get into it. Now if you'll notice, there's not a D tier here because I don't think any Druid subclasses are bad enough to warrant it. I think that they're all within a few standard deviations of each other. So, let's start with the first one. Circle of Dreams. Circle of Dreams is a strong subclass. It's one of the most powerful thematically. I really like just what it brings to the table. I like its healing. I like just a lot of what it does. However, it gets B tier. It's a fine Druid subclass, but I think there are more powerful options out there. I think some of its class features are unfortunately underwhelming. So, with all that, Circle of Dreams is B tier. Solid Druid subclass, but I think that some of its class features do hold it back. Although, it's a great healer. Next, we're going to go to Circle of the Land. And Circle of the Land is going into C. Now, by no means is this a bad Druid subclass. Like I say in my videos, it's a basic Druid subclass. It is for new Druids. This is what I recommend for new Druids. You can still be incredibly powerful with Circle of the Land. This does not dictate the overall power that you have. These rankings are just in comparison to other Druid subclasses. And in comparison to other Druid subclasses, Land just gets less. A lot of what you're doing is based off of your circle spells, and some of the circles are really good, others are not. I personally am not a huge fan of Coast, mainly because you're only getting 2 unique spells. Those spells are at 2nd level, and then as you progress through the class, it's a lot of spells that are situational and not as useful. But Land is the best spellcasting Druid. If you're going pure spellcasting, and you're not worried about anything else, just go Circle of the Land. You get your natural recovery, which is going to get you more spell slots. You're going to get more cantrips. It's honestly just a very solid subclass in terms of what you can do in terms of spellcasting. So with all that, Circle of the Land is still C, but you have to understand why it's C. And know that if you just want to cast spells, and if you're a new Druid, this is a perfectly fine subclass for you. Next, we're going to go Circle of the Moon. And Moon is A. Moon is top of A, and for a long time, Moon was my #1 rated Druid subclass. But as I was doing this, it slipped. Because power creep has entered the game. It has entered it, no doubt in my mind. And Moon Druid has fallen victim to power creep. For a long time, it was the king, but it slipped. Now, Moon Druid is the best wild shaping subclass. If you just want to use your wild shape, Moon Druid. And I will say that Moon Druid gets the most powerful, I think, out of any of these subclasses. If you take all of these subclasses and take them to level 20, Moon Druid would wipe the floor with anything below S tier, probably. And even then, it would probably win. Moon Druid is that strong. But it just focuses on its wild shape, while other subclasses that are ahead of it go a lot more beyond. They still use wild shape, but differently, and they still have spells as well. So for that reason, Moon is A. But personally, it's my favorite subclass. I love Moon the best. I like playing it the best. I like DMing for Moon Druids the best. I think that this is the most fun that I've had playing Druid. So I would recommend it. Even though that I understand that there are more powerful subclasses, I'm still a fan of Moon. Next, we're going to go Circle of the Shepherd. And it's bottom of C. This is the worst Druid subclass. And I know this is a big claim because I see a lot of people really loving Circle of the Shepherd. But I'm here to say, I don't think it's great. I think its summoning just doesn't work in the context of 5th edition. I think that the summoning things that you do get make summoning a bit more viable, but it only takes one AoE attack for a Circle of the Shepherd Druid to be basically your bog standard regular Druid if you did not have a subclass. You're not getting really any new spells. Kind of half of the summoning spells the Druid gets, as of Tasha's being released, don't actually work with its Mighty Summoner, which is supposed to give more hit points based off of hit die, but since the new summons don't have hit die, the Mighty Summoner doesn't do anything. So actually, as the game is progressing, Shepherd is getting left more and more in the past. Its Faithful Summons ability, its 14th level ability, which I see people talking about a lot, isn't that powerful. It's just not. You summon 4 CR2 beasts, and at 14th level and beyond, those things are basically fodder. Like, they're not living very long. They are surviving maybe a round, but even then, when your Druid goes unconscious, you might be the party's like main healer at that point. It's just bad. And a few giant hyenas or constrictors or whatnot, they're just not going to save you. Also, it's just a real hassle with Circle of the Shepherd keeping track of that many stat blocks. Even Moon Druid at times can suffer from the amount of stat blocks you have to keep track of, but you're only one animal at a time as the Moon Druid. Circle of the Shepherd, you're running potentially 8 other stat blocks and your own at the exact same time, which is a problem design-wise. So for that reason, Shepherd's at the bottom, and I'm pretty confident that it's going to be staying there. I just don't think that it is. I think that there are better subclasses to use, and I think that the summoning archetype is extremely flawed in 5th edition. Now we're going to go Spores, and Spores, top of B, probably would have been A few years ago, but some other subclasses took its place. And Spores is just a lot of fun to play. You have a strong thematic element to Spores. You can raise the dead, which is a lot of fun. Your Halo of Spores and your symbiotic entity and your fungal body, everything just thematically ties together. It's a very unified subclass. You know exactly what you're playing. It has a very unique feel. I love it. But there are some problems which makes it not go to A. First of all, nothing's broken in Spores. Like, you don't have any overpowered ability. And I think that this is one of the best balanced subclasses. I think other Druid subclasses are unbalanced to like the overpowered side of things. I think if you're a Spores Druid, everything is fair and balanced. So that should say something. This is the fair and balanced subclass. I think that because of that, it's held back a bit, where it doesn't have any game-breaking abilities like the last two have. And with Spores, you have some mechanical, I would say, finickiness, because your symbiotic entity gives you extra temporary hit points and then extra melee damage. And so most Spores Druids think, oh, I'm supposed to be on the front line. No, because you lose all those benefits of your symbiotic entity when you lose those temporary hit points. Those temporary hit points are something that you need to protect and you need to guard, mostly. And if you lose them, you lose out on a lot of the powerful things that Spore Druid has. For instance, Halo of Spores, it's not that strong base. Like, you're doing a D6, a D8, sometimes a D10 damage, but it's not all that impressive. Now, when you do 2d6 or 2d8 or 2d10 as a reaction, now we're looking at something. When you're able to spawn these undead fungal zombies, now we're looking at some major power. But if you don't have your symbiotic entity up, that's not going to help you. So, because of that mechanical finickiness, and because really it's just so well balanced, it's B. It is like a solid Druid subclass. And future Druid subclasses, I'd want to see modeled after Circle of Spores, actually. You're not too high, you're not too low. You're just right in the sweet spot where you're doing awesome things on a consistent basis, but I don't think you're going to be overshadowing anyone else. Alright, now we're looking at Circle of Stars. Circle of Stars is 100% A, because here's the thing. Circle of the Stars, and this came out in Tasha's Stars and Wildfire did, it is so versatile. With your starry form, Dragon, Chalice, and Archer, you are able to switch between 3 very distinct modes. Your damaging mode, your healing mode, and then your general concentration mode. And each of these is extremely powerful in its own right. Stars allows you to use every action at your disposal. Action, bonus action, reaction. And this is an underrated thing in 5th edition, because when I'm coaching up new players, I always say, make sure you use every action. Make sure you find a way to use everything. Because when you're doing that, you are helping shift the action economy. Because the more you do, the more actions you take, the greater a chance victory will be. Because you're just doing more than the enemy. Stars helps to shift the balance of a combat because you're doing more. And it's not like you're burning spell slots or things like that. These are all just innate to the Stars subclass. You can do guidance, or not guidance. You can do guidance without using a spell slot, but guiding bolt without using a spell slot. Bonus action, starry form without using a spell slot. And Chalice and Archer both give you abilities that you can use that don't require a spell slot. As a reaction, you can use your omens to impact an enemy for worse, which is the woe, or you can use wheel to help your allies, which is frankly awesome. It's just so good. And because you are this incredibly versatile character and are able to do so much, it just innately lends to power. Like Spores, nothing innately in Stars is quote-unquote broken. It has some very powerful and versatile class features, but as everything builds on itself, and as you take each stepping stone with Stars, it just gets better and better. And unlike Spores, it doesn't have these things that restrict it. Like, I personally have no flaws with Circle of Stars. Nothing is innately broken, but it doesn't have any flaws. Like, I don't know what you change here except stripping away class features and, I don't know, really making them worse, because right now Stars is just completely solid. Like, if you're wanting to be this versatile druid, I go Stars. If you don't know what druid to play, just play Stars Druid, because you have the thematic role-playing aspect there, and you can fulfill any part of the party effectively and be very good at it, and you can switch on a dime, whatever you're doing, especially when you get your improved starry form, where you can go from Archer to Chalice to Dragon whenever you want. That is really when you're going to significantly take off, and definitely, Stars is your most diverse druid. And now we come to the finale. We come to the most powerful druid subclass, I think, bar none, which is Wildfire Druid. I didn't initially get onto this train. I didn't initially see what the hype was. I thought Stars was more powerful than Wildfire. And then I DM'd for one. And I realized, Jesus Christ, are these things powerful. Your circle spells alone are ridiculous because they give druids the ability to output a significant amount of damage. Like, you can really start outputting hurt with a Wildfire Druid. You're getting Burning Hands, you're getting Flaming Sphere, you're getting Scorching Ray, which is really awesome because you're not avoiding all that fire damage. And Scorching Ray is going to be useful up until 20th level. I mean, you're always going to be able to use that as a reliable source of damage. You're getting Plant Growth, which I love as a druid spell. Plant Growth is, I think, one of the most powerful 3rd level spells in the game, just by its ability to lock creatures down and for you to open up space for your party. The ability to control the battlefield is one of the druid's greatest strengths, and Wildfire Druid controls the battlefield immaculately. I mean, it always has plant growth available. It has Revivify always available. Aura of Life, which is always available and really, really good and underrated spell. Flame Strike even, I mean, the list just goes on and on. Your Wildfire Spirit gives you a teleport. It can do damage as a bonus action. Once again, you're using your entire character sheet as a Wildfire Druid. At 10th level, you have this incredible Cauterizing Flame feature, which allows 2d10 plus 5 at its maximum healing as a reaction. As a reaction, you're helping to heal your party effectively. And it's just so powerful. I think that Stars starts out more powerful, not by much though. And then by the time you hit 14th level, and Wildfire gets its Blazing Revival, which when you drop to 0 and your Wildfire Spirit is nearby, you go back up to half health and destroy it. I mean, from then on, it's really tough to challenge these guys, because that going back up to half health is really all you need in a combat. That is going to change so much right there. And at the end, Moon Druid has more health, but Wildfire, I think, has so many more defensive options, and you get your best defensive ability, you know, much earlier than Moon Druid. So, because of that, I think this is the most tanky subclass. It's the most survivable, I would say. That's the right word. It's the most survivable subclass. Because it's so survivable and hard to remove, and because it does so much damage, and because it has bonuses to healing and movement and whatever you want, Wildfire just covers everything you want as a druid. Not to mention, it just has a really solid role-playing aspect here. It's just great. It's just great. I don't know if there's a lot more to say about it. You should be playing Wildfire Druid if you're wanting to be at your mechanical best. If you're wanting to get the most out of Druid, I think that's Wildfire. And you don't have to be a min-maxer that doesn't roleplay, because built into Wildfire, Stars, and Moon are all great role-playing aspects here. That's part of the ranking system, was the role-playing potential, because I felt that's very important, because D&D is the world's greatest role-playing game. You have to be able to role-play. I think that is what separates Druid from other classes, like, let's say, Warlock with their Hexblade. I don't think the Hexblade has a very strong role-playing foundation, but I think all the top Druid subclasses do. I think that you can get a lot from all of those. In fact, I think some of the weakest ones, Shepherd and Land, like, that's partially why they're at the bottom, because they don't have this strong role-playing connection, while Wildfire, Stars, and Moon 100% do. And so that's the subclass tier list. Wildfire solely at the top, but I think you can play all of these druids effectively, and I think you'll have fun with all of them. There have been people in all of my comment sections who have loved each and every one of these subclasses, which I think speaks to Druid in general. So, with all that being said, just pick up a Druid. Like, don't look at this subclass and think that you should only be playing Wildfire and maybe Stars or Moon. Everything else, Spores, Dreams, Land, Shepherd, I think there is a place for. And I think you're going to have fun playing it, no matter what you're doing there. So, thank you for watching this video up to this point. If you're looking for more, check out this one right here, and thank you for entering the dungeon.